today I would like to welcome Harbeen Arora and Ouided Bouchamaoui. It's a privilege to have both of you here. Thank you for speaking with us. And before we begin, I'd like to tell you about what we're doing here. So at Zenit, and I believe you've had the opportunity to hear a bit about what we do. We are a midstream company that has pipelines around all the country in Colombia, approximately 9,000 kilometers of pipelines. And within our operations, we have a large group of engineers and operators. And one of the things that we have made it our mission is to make inclusion and diversity a core value in the company. So we certainly share a lot of what both of you have striven to do over time, and it's wonderful to have you here. One of the programs we have at Zenit is called Conversations That Move Us. And these are a series of conversations we have between people in our teams, people that inspire us, people that can teach us something to be better each day. And so that's the space that brings all of us here today. So as we begin, I would love to hear about both of you. And I'll start with you. And it would be wonderful if you could tell our team what inspired you to found the Women's Economic Forum and the All Women's League. And if you could tell us a bit about the organization and what has brought you here today, it would be fantastic.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I come from India and I'm very happy to be in Bogota for the very first time. I've been to Colombia before, but in Bogota for the very first time, and I'm very grateful to my soul sister Karen Bruges, who is the president of the Women Economic Forum in Colombia, uniting the women of the world from all the Latin American countries to have made this possibility available to all of us to be here. In our network, we started connecting to the women of the world in order to unite the women of the world. I call it the World Wide Web of Women, the WWW of women, in order to create literally a Wi-Fi of women that other women can tap into and make it easy for ourselves to see possibilities, to find opportunities, to be able to dream and to dare to do. And that is really the energy our collective action has been creating. At the end of this year in London, we will be celebrating 100 editions of the Women Economic Forum that started in 2015. And before that, the All Ladies League, which started as circles of sisterhood. So we call each other soul sisters. We tie a band of hermandad and solidaridad to our sisters. And now we have opened our network to men as well, and we call it the Denim Club, because if you see our logo of the G100, it's a group of 100 global women leaders, each supported by a male ally who's called a part of the Denim Club. And we got the name Denim because we said denim doesn't discriminate between women and men or any gender, it's the same. And so that becomes a common ground to have confident conversations around dialogue, around the genders, around collaboration, because it takes two to tango.
That's wonderful to hear. And I think it's a great lesson for us, and certainly something we strive to do as we look at both having male colleagues be mentors to the women in our organization, and something that is very important, sorority, women helping each other. And it's something we can always do more of, and you certainly serve as an inspiration for us to continue doing that. So thank you very much. And moving on to you, Ouided. As I mentioned, Ouided is the winner of the 2015 Nobel Prize. And so it would be wonderful for you to tell us a bit about how that came about, and what was the moment in your life that gave you the motivation and drove you to make the decision to work for the achievement of a democratic political system in your country.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here in Bogota. It's my second visit to Colombia. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm belonging to an entrepreneur family. I'm working with my brothers and sisters, and I grew up with this mentality to be like man and to do like men. There is no difference between boys and girls. And for me, my achievement was to continue my school education and to work, not to stay at home, even though it's good to have children and to raise up children, but we need to be a part of the society and to do something different. So I joined as an entrepreneur the Tunisian Business Confederation in the 90s, and I went step by step in this confederation through the regional, national, areas, and after on 2011, the year of this Tunisian Arab Spring Revolution, I was elected by men as their president, and I was elected at this position as the first woman in the Arab world. For me, it was a big challenge to be in such position and to deal with entrepreneurs, men and women, but the majority of them are men. In 2013, we had 2 political assassinations in our country, and we were really afraid that we were going to lose our democracy, our revolution in Tunisia. So that's why we, as 4 members of the 4 Tunisian national organizations from the civil society, we decided to be together and to set up a kind of roadmap and to do something for the country to avoid the civil war, and to invite politicians to sit around the same table and to discuss about all these points, and also to find a solution for this very critical situation in Tunisia. I think what we did, it was a kind of group work, and as we had the trust of Tunisian, and also we had this confidence that we were able to solve our own problem without having, any international intervention. And I think what we did, it was kind of duties, to our country, because I think, and I'm sure, I'm convinced that my country gave me so much and a lot of things, and I need at least to do something for my country. So my role was, it's kind, my role and even the role of my 3 colleagues was a kind of mediators, and we were there just to convince, to say to politicians that it's possible to sit around the same table, it's possible to listen to each other, it's possible also to discuss together, and also it's possible to change our minds if we are not, if we have good ideas. And I think it was for us, it's a way to say that yes, dialogue is possible. We can have a very civic and civic dialogue with politicians, with the civil society, and without, having any kind of thinking about using forces or using guns or using something like this. So I think the main and a very important lesson for me and for all Tunisians is that dialogue is possible, and dialogue is the only solution. To reduce conflicts, because it's difficult to avoid conflicts, but at least to reduce conflicts. So my motivation was to show, not to show that as a woman I'm able to lead this organization, but I think my motivation was how I can do something for my country, how I can do something, and how we can also be, let's say, more open, to have more an open mind, to have to accept differences, to accept others, to accept dialogue, to listen to each other. And my motivation to help others. And I think that's what we did, to help others with a very peaceful way. And for me, peace is possible if we have the will. To lead and to work with others, with having this kind of new mentality that yes, the world is very open, very big, but there is a place for each one of us.
That's wonderful to hear, and certainly an inspiration. And in Colombia, as you've heard, we aren't foreign to conflict. So it's always a good reminder that dialogue is certainly the most important part of what we can do. in terms of solving conflict. But I have a question of a more personal nature. One of the things you mentioned is how you were elected by a group of mostly men. And I've been in quite a few spaces, particularly in the corporate world, where I'm the only woman. And I know that many of our team members who are here with us today operate in stations that are mostly manned by men. And so they aren't foreign to being one or two women amongst a large group of men in a work environment. What would be the advice you would give these women in terms of managing this dynamic and how being a woman can help you contribute within these workspaces?
Confidence, trust, and perseverance. I think for me, there are the three most important pillars. Because if we trust on ourselves, we know what we want to do, we know that we are able to do, I think we can succeed. And also we have to be honest. I mean, if you don't know, you have to say, I don't know. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to say, yes, I'm wrong. I'd like to do better, I'd like to correct myself. And also the perseverance, because many women or men, both of them, they're going to try just to push you, not to go forward, but to come back. I mean, to be always, I mean, not on the front, but always to be like behind the man. No, you have to be patient. I think it's very important to be patient because the path is long. But if you have the will, if you have this perseverance, you can succeed. That's what I learned, and what I'm really convinced that the solution is to be very, very, very patient, because we learned from the life that we have. There are so many difficulties. There are so many barriers, so many different mentalities. But if we are there, we said, okay, yes, I'm strong. Yes, I'm able. Yes, I can do this. I can succeed on this. So for sure, we are going to succeed.
Very inspirational. Certainly advice we'll look to follow. So back to you, Harbeen. And going a bit back to this topic on joining government and working for your country, what do you think is the importance of women's participation in democratically elected governments, and what do you think we can do to increase this participation?
I mean, there is worldwide, women in politics, the moment like Ouided has maintained her independence. She's not been really part of the government as such. She was part of the business chamber, comes from a business family, is a businesswoman, and actually didn't enter elected office, and she continues to connect to the community in her own way. And likewise, people ask me, what about politics? And it's strange, but I say I'm not cut out for it and I'm not designed for it, but I want to support women who want to enter politics. But this is quite typical of the problem. The problem is that we don't see ourselves there yet, unless it's like a drop to the top. So for some reason you are dropped to the top, you get a ministerial portfolio, you're not really running for election, or you're dropped to the top, and then you assume the ministerial post without having to go through the big struggle and risks of the political process, which can be very intimidating for women at times. The public life, the external life, the public space is full of risks for women. And so I keep talking about, you said about how do we encourage women's participation in the political process, but in every process. Because the moment you get out, even in your home, we have to de-risk spaces for women. We have to de-risk the home space. There is still rampant issues of domestic violence across the world. There is issues of children are not safe. Young girls, young boys are not safe in homes, in schools, are going out to the street, going to your school, walking to your school, and if you are a teenager, if you're menstruating, finding the right toilet for yourself, finding menstrual hygiene products. There are issues of poverty. So a woman is at risk from the time she's a girl. She's at risk in the mother's womb. She might not even come out.
Yes.
She might be killed right there. So I think the answer to greater women's participation is to reach out and create safe spaces. Even digital, we see cybercrime against women. It started. So there is a very high risk and a high penalty for women to step forward and step up. And we have to reduce those barriers, because women's issues are no longer, or were never, women's issues alone. They are a societal issue. They are an economic issue. It concerns organizations such as yours as well. Where will you get the next wave of talent from? So you are retrenching your talent pool, or we as communities, as organizations, as people are having less talent to tap into. And we are in the information and innovation economy. And who could be more innovative than a woman? The one who keeps everything together. See in your families, who keeps the family together? If the families exist, it's because the woman is at the center of it. But we also see now a fragmentation in the family system, which is creating a lot of problems for everyone. So we have to refocus on the woman, on the central place of the woman, respect and acknowledge the central place of the woman, whether or not she goes to school to get a degree or not, or college to get a degree or not. A woman comes with the education of the heart. Even if you go to rural villages, and maybe more so, they are still connected to Mother Earth. They are connected to their womb. They have creative capacities. So I think we need to bring back attention to the existing wisdom of women on an as is, where is basis. And then from that place of respect and understanding, reach out and do whatever we can to give back that support which they have given to us in the first place. Why are we thriving? If each of us look at our lives, especially men, as to why they are thriving, is because we're all born of mothers, right? There's a woman behind each one of us who is ensuring that we get whatever we want, who's putting all the support by way of her sacrifice, by way of doing whatever it takes to make sure you get that food on the table, you get that education that you want to, you walk on that path of your dreams. And on walking on that path, we came so far away that we forgot to look back and reach our hand and bring her with us. That's all we need to do.
That's certainly a beautiful message in honoring our mothers and all that they have certainly done for us. And as we look forward, and I'll bring it back to concretely and what we do at our company, we certainly have a series of initiatives that help empower women. In your experience, for someone in the corporate world like us, what do you think are the most effective things we can do to help both the women in our organization and the men, so that they can support the women both in the organization and beyond?
I think what my sister said, the word of the day is dialogue. It's something that we discussed in the afternoon at this wonderful lunch that we had with some of the most amazing women leaders in Colombia, facilitated by the Chamber of Commerce here, and is really continue that dialogue. And especially the role of the top leadership becomes very important, because with intentionality, with an intention, and the intentionality will come when there's an awareness. So it's a constant interaction between creating awareness and making more intentional policies and practices, voluntarily setting goals, setting targets. We are organizations. We do that. If we can set goals and targets for the products that we sell or the services that we sell, we can certainly set up goals for things that matter to us, which is not just about what we achieve, but how we achieve them, and ensuring that fulfillment of the human potential, whatever be the gender, is a key priority for every organization. And through dialogue, with the help of the top leadership and constant interaction with all levels of leadership, ensure that we are addressing some of the barriers that we may not even know about. You know, sometimes there are barriers of, you know, we talk about sexual harassment at the workplace, it's a big barrier. But how many times do we create safe spaces without penalizing? Because many times women will not speak up, because that means you may not get your next job, or you may not get your next promotion, because you're seen as a troublemaker and you're seen as somebody who's challenging the status quo. So we miss out on those conversations. It's under the carpet. But if we can actually create safe spaces by the top leadership saying, okay, these are safe spaces here, these are anonymous surveys, can you please let us know in our organization if you've ever experienced this, let us know, you don't have to put your name to it, so you feel safe, or any other practice that helps women actually speak those things. Otherwise, we go in these organizations with very straight-jacketed ways and saying, okay, I don't want to risk anything. And that affects the decision making, because let's say, because there is a penalty for speaking up, there's a penalty for risking it, and you're already in a risky environment. You're just trying to keep your job, you're just trying to keep your baseline. So if you see some of the attitudes or leadership traits in women and men, you will see that a man, because he's mostly reporting to a man on top, will be much more open to taking a decision on the spot. Right? For instance, I'm coming to this conference, so at the registration desk or any other, there is a man, and I say, oh, I have a problem with my pass or something. You're like, okay, let me figure it out, let me call whatever, and find flexibly a solution to my problem, which means exercise more individual decision making even in the absence of the top leader on that position. Whereas if you see, if there is a woman or even a group of women, they're together, they have the collective power and the agency. Because they do not have a woman at the top who they can relate to and feel that they are not at a risk of maybe losing their job or getting penalized for taking a decision, they will stick to the safe line and say, sorry, it's not there, I can't do much about it. And so we did like a investigation into this kind of behavior, and each time there was a woman on top, they related, they had less fear, they could access and explain, they had more decision making. And this was a very small sample size, but you can exercise it in your organization and see. And whereas the men, of course, they come with more confidence capital already in place, and given the fact that they have a man who they can speak to, who will listen to them, who will not discount what they are saying. Because a woman, even if she would take a decision, she might find it harder to explain to the top management why did she take a decision, what were the reasons, and she'll put herself at more risk. And to complete, I'll come to what my Prime Minister in India said at one of the speeches he gave when he became the Prime Minister in 2014 or 2015. The speech was between the 2 years, and he spoke to the whole nation. It was broadcast on the national media about the mindsets that, you know, this confidence capital and how we take it away slowly and slowly from the women and how we add it to the men. And he said, when you have a son and a daughter in your family, and when the son is going out in the evening, 6 o'clock, he says, bye mom, bye dad, I'm going out and I'll be back for dinner. Like, okay, bye-bye. And see you, have a good time. And when the girl says, mom, I'm going out and I'll see you later, and she's like, where are you going? Who are you meeting?
With whom?
Who with whom? Who are you spending time with? Which restaurant are you going to? What time will you be back? Is it necessary to go today? Can't you do it on the weekend? It's endless. And he said, if we could just give the same kind of whatever rules you have, whatever set of rules, don't exercise them differently for your boys and girls. As parents, as organizations, as authority figures, you have every right to put together a set of rules and a code of conduct or whatever, but don't discriminate so much. Don't make this margin so wide. Ideally, keep it the same, but if you have to, for whatever reasons, have dialogue, even in your families. That's where the culture of dialogue begins. That's where the culture of conversation begins. So let's start there, because that's accessible and that's the next best step that each one of us can take right in our homes.
And certainly a series of examples that I think most of us can, in one way or another, relate to. And I'm going to sort of stick to a point which I think is interesting, and it is that what we can do as organizations is not very different than what we can do as family members, which is not very different than what we need to do as a society. And as both of our guests have told us, it's really about generating safe spaces, it's about generating confidence, it's about empowering, it's about being confident as women, not being afraid to ask questions, and it's really about also playing a role in listening and generating that dialogue that is so important in bringing us forward. And so I believe we're a bit out of time, but I want to thank both of you for spending time with us today. Thank you very much. You're certainly both an inspiration to all of us, and we hope to follow your example.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.